glad to hear the news. For a second there, I thought the Big Ten was just going to watch the SEC just take over the entire
I know it. I did too, because the Big Ten's conservative by nature. It is, but there's new leadership and it's a new age, and they also know how to count money. They do accounting pretty well in the Big Ten, so they understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the number one thought that came to mind was the Big Ten needs to close the door with Notre Dame. I mean, if they don't, I feel like that's a bad miss because of the geography, the viewers. It's just a common sense addition to the Big Ten.
Oh, it fits in every conceivable way, financially, geography, the football. Just I can't even describe it beyond the history, just the fabric of what the Big Ten is on the football field, and in its history and prestige and tradition. And Notre Dame, obviously Notre Dame, Michigan State, Notre Dame, Purdue through the year. It's a perfect fit from a football standpoint. That's all I think about. That's all I care about. And academically, of course, the Big Ten has high standards, and Notre Dame does as well.
Absolutely. And you know what? That week one game is probably going to be, it's just going to be a taste of what it could be. I do think that if the game is close and it's just a crazy crowd, and I believe it's at Ohio State week one, that could be a tipping point for the University of Notre Dame to say, hey, let's make this happen.
At some point, the money has to talk. So it was often thought for years that Notre Dame was getting rich off of its TV contract, but that's been brought to light in recent years that it's not. It's just stubborn, and it wants to maintain its national brand and its national scope and all of that. But that ACC money and them playing the majority of those games against Duke and Georgia Tech and Syracuse isn't what it would be playing in the Big Ten. And now that these revenue figures are going to exceed $90 million for teams in the Big Ten and the SEC per team, and the Big 12, for example, is going to be in the $35 million, $40 million range, then at some point, this is going to speak to Notre Dame, and the money is just going to slap them across the face. Plus, if we get into a college football playoff situation in which they can never get a bye because they can't win a conference, and they're always stuck playing a first-round game the years they make the playoff, that may push them a little bit too.
Absolutely. Another thought that came to mind, I understand that Rutgers was added for the money and the TV viewership, but I do think it is time to move on. Sorry for any Rutgers fans out there. They're just not really let's just say Rutgers was dropped and Notre Dame was added. That's a net gain. The Big Ten would be getting a net gain there. And I do think it may be time to move on.
The Big Ten, and I'll make this comment and then I'll let you finish this up because, yeah, we're about 10 calls behind. But, the Big Ten reminds me of conversations I had with ESPN my last few years concerning what I'm doing. Cable TV was too highly regarded and digital media too lowly regarded. And the Big Ten caught Maryland and Rutgers right at the peak before the tipping point of cable distribution versus digital distribution, and they overvalued the concept of having Baltimore, New York City, and Washington, D.C. through cable markets, through those two schools especially. Yes.
So. All right. Hey, I know you got a lot of callers. I do have one more comment, kind of just
sure.
a quick thought. I know there was some mentions on Florida schools for the Big Ten, but I was thinking Miami. I mean, Miami might be a decent fit for the Big Ten, large city, get that pipeline going into the state of Florida for the Big Ten. I mean, that may be a good addition as well down the pipeline.
Absolutely. And strong academic private school as well. Jared, thank you so much for the call.
I appreciate it, Mike. Mark, have a good one.
Thank you.